The Ural Mountains are ancient, silent, unforgiving. For centuries, the native Mansi people believed certain valleys here were cursed. They spoke of a place where winds echo like voices, where lights appear in the sky without explanation, where travelers vanish without a trace. One of those places was called Kholat Syakhl, Dead Mountain. And in 1959, 9 of the strongest, smartest, most well-prepared hikers the Soviet Union ever produced went there. None returned. What rescue teams discovered would spark more than 6 decades of fear, confusion, government interference, and whispered theories that official reports still refuse to explain. This is the full story the world was never supposed to hear. The Dyatlov group wasn't ordinary. They were elite. 8 students and 1 older, seasoned hiker. Strong bodies, sharp minds, trained to endure temperatures that would kill the average person in hours. Igor Dyatlov, 23, engineer, radio enthusiast, and natural leader. Organized, focused, brilliant under pressure. Zina Kolmogorova, 22, tough, athletic, respected. She once walked 24 kilometers through a snowstorm after injuring her knee. Rustem Slobodan, 23, a competitive runner, capable of outrunning most men even in deep snow. Lyudmila Dubinina, 20, fierce, brave, known for her stubborn will to survive. Thibaut Brignole, 23, French-Soviet engineer with exceptional physical strength. Doroshenko, 21, fearless, had survived a bear attack in the past. Kolovatov, 24, physics student with experience in harsh climates. Zolotarov, 37, suspiciously older than the rest, a war veteran with classified experience. And finally, Yuri Yudin, 21, the only one who turned back early due to illness, the only one who lived. January 23, 1959. The group boards a train, laughing, sharing cigarettes, posing for photographs. They kept meticulous diaries, almost too meticulous. They documented weather, meals, jokes, even arguments. Their journals show no fear, no tension, no hint of danger. Yet several entries from Dyatlov and Dubinina mention something curious. Strange sounds at night, distant howling, lights behind the trees. At the time, they thought little of it. One of the most puzzling pieces of evidence is frame 33, the final photo taken on their camera. A blurry object glowing in the sky, oval-shaped, bright, hovering. Skeptics call it camera damage. Others believe it's the exact object multiple locals reported seeing that same night. But what truly matters is when the photo was taken. Shortly before they cut open their own tent and ran into the freezing dark. The group made camp atop Dead Mountain, not in the forest where trees would block the wind, not in the valley where they would have shelter. They camped on the slope, exposed, something Dyatlov rarely did. Why? Did they see something in the forest? Hear something? Around midnight, something happened. Something so terrifying or overwhelming that 9 highly experienced hikers made the worst choice a human can make. They left their tent, not by walking out, not by stumbling in panic, but by cutting through it from the inside. Whatever forced them out wasn't going to wait for them to unzip the door. When searchers located the tent weeks later, it told a story no one could comprehend. Inside lay boots lined neatly, jackets folded, food prepared for cooking, diaries placed in order. Everything normal, everything peaceful. But the cuts in the tent, long, jagged slices, made deliberately. Barefoot footprints led away. Some were walking, some running, some staggering, all heading toward the forest, almost as if they were following someone or fleeing something unseen. Under the cedar tree, 2 bodies were found, Doroshenko and Krivonishenko. They were nearly naked, hands burned, skin charred, as if they desperately tried to climb the tree to escape, snapping branches 4 meters above the ground. Nearby, a small campfire still showed signs of life. But what burned them? And why strip their clothes? Some believe paradoxical undressing, a final stage of hypothermia. But others say the clothes were removed after death by the surviving hikers trying to stay alive. Between the cedar and the tent, 3 more bodies appeared in the snow. Zina Kolmogorova fell first. Slobodan fell second. Dyatlov fell last, closest to camp. Their bodies were aligned in a way that suggested a slow, painful return climb. Not panic, not chaos. Something scared them, then something else weakened them, until their bodies gave out one by one. Slobodan's skull fracture immediately raised questions, not severe enough to kill, but impossible to explain. The last 4 bodies weren't found for months, buried under meters of snow in a ravine near a creek. These bodies changed everything. Semyon Zolotarov, experienced soldier, chest crushed as if hit by a blunt force equivalent to a car crash. Ludmila Dubinina, ribs snapped inward, massive internal bleeding, eyes missing, tongue removed. None of these injuries had external marks, no bruises, no cuts, no signs of a struggle. The autopsy doctor insisted these injuries could not have been caused by a human. Here is what the official investigation hid. 1. Missing autopsy notes, especially those describing Dubinina's injuries in far more detail than the public report. 2. Witness reports of glowing orbs. Multiple locals testified seeing lights in the sky above the pass. These reports were marked classified. 3. A restricted military zone. Maps from the 1950s showed the area was used for testing parachute mines and other high-energy explosives. 4. Radiation levels. Traces of beta radiation were found on clothing. The source was never explained. 5. Secret military activity on the same night. Unreleased documents hinted at unannounced aircraft testing in the region. 6. A missing page from Dyatlov's diary. A page referring to strange screaming winds was never officially logged. Even modern experts struggle to piece together every detail. The Soviet report's final line is still one of the most infamous in history. They died due to a compelling natural force. Not an avalanche, not an animal, not enemy soldiers, not an accident. A force, one they refused to define. For decades, survivors, relatives, and investigators were warned to stop asking questions. Several witnesses died shortly after speaking out. Documents went missing. Evidence was destroyed. Even today, portions of the case remain classified. What killed the Dyatlov group that night may never be fully known. But something did. Something violent. Something silent. Something powerful enough to crush bones internally, terrify 9 skilled hikers, and force the government to bury the truth. Today, hikers still visit Dyatlov Pass. Some hear strange sounds. Some see lights. Some feel watched. The snow has long covered the footprints, but the mountain remembers. And every winter, when the winds rise, people say you can still hear voices carried across the snow. Whispers of 9 souls who ran from their tent into the cold and into history.